Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. So I finally figured out that I have a tripod and I can actually use it. And so, yeah, I'm not going to carry around the camera and until my arm gets tired and keep switching arms here. But anyway, I wanted to make a video because I got an interesting comment and kind of an interesting discussion on Facebook. I usually try to avoid Facebook and getting into discussions, but a buddy of mine that I know since like elementary school, who I've been kind of following and watching as he's had some struggles in his life, right? He's a real smart guy, real awesome guy, fearless, definitely a warrior type of personality. But he basically, he joined the Marines. He really identified with that role of being a Marine, and when he got out, I think he went through kind of a bit of a rough divorce, and he changed his name. He got his law degree, and he's been struggling as a lawyer for a while, kind of in a small town in a city here. And I've been watching. I've been watching, and biting my tongue as I've been watching him sort of living in the past. And I think a lot of people do this, right? Especially when we're faced with something that is difficult in our lives, and we fall back to the thing we know, to the identity that we can associate with, and we don't fully live in the present. We're kind of living in that history, and different people do this. You see this, the classic, from Napoleon Dynamite, what was his uncle Rico, remembering his high school days all the time of being a quarterback or whatever, and missing his shot, but reliving those glory days and trying to live there. And unfortunately, my buddy here, I felt like this is what he's doing. No offense to him, he's a great guy, like I said, but I've been seeing this. So he finally posted this thing on Facebook, and he was basically talking about some of his options for the future, and basically, kind of leaving it open, like, okay, I'm ready for some advice. Go ahead and give it to me. So finally, I was like, okay, well, you know what? Since you've asked for it, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna tell you what I think. That you've been living in the past, and that you didn't ever really try to live in the present and doing this lawyer thing. You've kind of given up. You didn't give it your all, and now you're trying to fall back onto the Marines again, to go into that past life. You never let this thing go, and now you're going back to it again, not because that's what's best for you, but because that's what you're comfortable with. That's what that's where you identify with. That's you're hoping to bring this glory day back, and that's not going to work. It's never going to be like it was before. It's you're running from something essentially, and you never gave the thing that you're supposed to do, the present. You never gave it a fair shake. And I got some comments on it, or rather one comment, and I'll read it. And it's from a guy named Jeffrey. And he says, "But what should he do? Lawyer harder when he hates it? Find a way to lawyer in a way that he likes, so he'll do better?" I'm curious because I think an ass ton of guys have the same thoughts. So that's what prompted this video today is, I feel like if I'm going to go and say that, I've got to answer this question essentially. What should he do? Should he lawyer better even though he hates it? Find some way to lawyer in a way that he likes. It's tough. I think, I don't think there's a clear-cut answer, but, I would say that to me, in my mind, I think what a lot of people do, and, maybe this isn't the case, but this is what I've seen in my experience, is a lot of people, what they end up doing is they do something in life and they don't fully commit to it. And what I mean by that is, they don't give it their all. They sort of try, they're sort of setting themselves up for failure. They're not fully putting themselves into a thing. And so when they fail, it's not really them failing because they didn't really try as hard as they could, right? I think you see this a lot. I think we all have this tendency to sort of do this thing. In fact, I'll give you a story. I'll tell you how I did this, and I didn't get over this in this particular case. But back in high school, I was a pole vaulter in track and field. I did pole vaulting, and I personally did pole vaulting just because I wanted to do the scariest thing that you could do in track and field, which was pole vaulting. And with pole vaulting, if you've ever seen, you see those guys, they bend the pole and they shoot up. Well, before they bent poles in pole vaulting, they did what's called straight pole. So you would basically not bend the pole, and it's a little bit more difficult to kind of get up there because you kind of got to use a lot more force, come a little bit more faster, and you got to push up more from it. But you'd straight pole it, right? And so, I was a pretty big guy in high school, a lot bigger than a lot of the pole vaulters. Were usually small, kind of shorter guys. And they'd weigh a lot less, and so they'd have these really bendable poles. But I had this pole that was made, 220-pound poles, or that's the weight limit on it, and I never bent the pole. And for a long time I made the excuse. I said, well, I'm so big, the pole's so stiff, it's not really meant for someone that's 220 pounds to be able to bend the pole. I'm just going to straight pull it. And I did good straight pulling it. I hit states and got 14 feet in the air. Did pretty good for a straight pull. People were kind of amazed when I go up there and straight pull it. But it was really an excuse because the thing is, when you get up there, I was always afraid. To be honest with you, I was afraid to push, because in order to bend that pole, you got to run really hard. And instead of when you put the pole in the little divot to go up, instead of putting it in and then jumping, which is what you do when you straight pull it, you got to plant it, and then you raise this one arm up and the other one down, and you bend and you keep running until it bends, and then you jump and you spring up into the air. And I was always afraid to do that. I was afraid to give it all that I got to put it. I just said that I couldn't do it. That's enough. That all I could do was straight pull it and shoot it up instead of pushing through and bending it. I was afraid to do that. And I think a lot of us are afraid to do that. We're afraid to bend the pole. Instead, what we do is we don't go all the way. We go most of the way. We run down the runway. We run as fast as we can. And right when we get to the point where it's going to be us on the line, where it's really going to be on the line, we chicken out a little bit. We don't bend that pole. We just straight pull it over. And so I never actually bent the pole. I never did that because I never got over that. And that's the thing, is it's I think, to answer that question of what should he do? Should he lower harder? Even though he doesn't like it. You got to bend the pole. You got to push a little bit harder. I don't think, and like I said, I could be wrong here, but I don't think that he's putting it all in. I don't think he's bending the pole. I don't think he's pushing hard enough to be able to see what's going to happen. And I don't know. I mean, why don't we do this? Why, what is the problem? Part of it's being afraid of failure, right? Because, like I said, if you're doing that, if you're going all the way, if you're putting yourself 100% on line, if you're trying as hard as you can, then if you fail, it's on you. But if you never gave it all you had, if you just straight pulled it, if you didn't try and bend the pole, if you didn't take that risk, and you fail, well, it's not your fault. Because it wasn't all you. It was just you trying and giving up or giving it a half-assed try. When you put it all on line and you fail, that's a little bit more painful. It's a bigger risk. It's a chance it's harder to take. So I think that's what it comes down to is that, should he try harder? Should he? Yeah, I could say, look, yeah, you should try harder. Yeah, you might not feel like doing it, but that doesn't matter, because the thing is, in the end, whether you feel like it or not isn't going to be the issue. And I don't think that's the issue. I don't think it's an issue of not feeling like it, not wanting this thing. It's not wanting it bad enough to put it all on the line, to try to take the risk of realizing. I mean, it's easier to attach your identity to something you already know, right? When uncertainty is really difficult for us to deal with. If you had an identity in the Marines and you killed people, you know what I mean, or you did combat and that's what you did, and you had a brotherhood there, and you had you belonged, and you had affiliation, and that's what you could identify yourself with. It's easier to just stay with that. It's hard, you know. It's like sometimes we have one foot on the dock and one foot in the boat. And we're afraid to get in the boat. We don't want to put both feet in the boat because it's scary. And you know, I think that's what's going on in this situation. And I think that's going on in a lot of our lives, is that we're doing that. We're putting one foot in the boat and one foot on the dock. And because we don't want to separate, we don't want to lose the thing that we're certain about the dock. We're not sure about the boat, right? And so, but the thing is, like, when you're doing that, you can't ever fully, if you're not fully getting in the boat, you're not going to see where it's going to take you. And maybe you're going to fail, but you're not going to get forward. You're not going to move forward until you really actually fail. Like, if you fail because your foot was halfway in the boat and halfway on the dock, you don't learn anything. You don't get any benefits. You don't get any points for that one, right? You can just say, oh, well, I must not be a seaman. I must need to stay on the dock, right? You can use the easy way out. But if you fully get in the boat and you fail, then what? Then you don't know. You don't know what's next. You've lost your identity. You've got to figure it out. You've got to keep on trying. You've got to build a new boat. You've got to try again. And that's scary. It's so much easier to stay with what you know. So I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's an issue of not liking it. I don't think it's an issue of I failed and it's not working, and how long should I do something that's not working. I think it's an issue of, have you actually really tried, right? And I'm not just talking about my buddy here, because you know, so many of us are stuck in this place. It's really, I've caught myself there so many times, like I said, with that pole vaulting, where it's like, am I really going to actually try and bend the pole? Or am I just every time gonna straight pull it? And straight pulling it will get you pretty far in life. I mean, I got up to like 14 feet in the air, but I wasn't going to set any world records. I wasn't going to get up to 16 feet. It was impossible. You know, the physics said that was not going to happen unless I was willing to bend that pole. And so when you're not willing to bend the pole, when you've got one foot on the dock and one foot in the boat, when you're not willing to totally commit and totally fail and face that failure head on, you're going to be limited. You might achieve some success and you might fail, but you're never going to reach your potential. It's a risk. And I can't guarantee the outcome, right? You know, it's easy for me to say, stop living in the past, bro. live your life and take some risks. But that's easy for me to say, because I don't have to deal with the consequences. But I know this. I know that, you know, at least for me, I'd rather live 100% fully in the present and fail and have to live up to that or face that failure head on, than to be in between, to be stuck in the past, to be holding on to an identity, something that I know is gone already, just because it's safe and secure. So that's what I have to say about that. And if this can benefit you, if you feel like it could benefit someone, you know, I'd appreciate it if you share the video. And if you like more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.